He may be the best friendship builder that I've ever come across, because he can literally get to any single person in the world. And this happened at the last event. This also happened last night at dinner. People may have never heard of him before, didn't meet him. And then they're just like, this guy's a force of nature. It's just absolutely incredible.
Hi, my name is Cliff Weitzman. I'm going to raise the energy in the room for 1 second because people are a little bit early in the morning. So my goal today is to make sure that at some point in the next 15, 20 minutes, there's an idea that you can pick up that will significantly improve the quality of your life. If I succeed in that, I'll be happy. As David said, over the last 10 years, I ended up making some of the most ridiculous friendships I have ever heard of anybody having. This is in terms of the quality and the depth of my relationships with people who are in my team or my best friends, in the diversity of the type of people I get to be friends with, and in the types of things I get to do with people who I end up becoming friends with. There's 3 overarching themes I want to cover. Number 1, how do you find the right people on the internet to reach out to? Number 2, how do you arise an eager want in those people to respond to your message? And number 3, how do you deepen the quality of that relationship over time? When I first reached out to David, I found out initially about the How to Take Over the World podcast. And I just binged all of it in a week. And the thing is, I listen to everything at 3x speed. I've been listening to 2 books a week, every week for the last 16 years. So I've also listened to 95% of founders. Anyone think they've listened to 90% of founders in this room? Wow, I'm super impressed with you. We were to talk after this, my new best friend. And so David had a line, and he was describing something, and he goes, the mind is a powerful place, and what you feed it can affect you in a powerful way. And in my head I'd go, pretty cool, man, yeah, but it's not always safe, because he was quoting NF, which is a rapper I really love. And I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this crossover. So I got his number, and I texted him. We grabbed dinner, which ended up becoming a 4-hour dinner. And then we just keep meeting each other all over the world. But I do this with every single person I come across on the internet that I find to be cool. So every podcaster, every author, every filmmaker, every athlete, every musician, every podcaster, every founder, every investor, I will message them, we will become friends, we will meet up in person. Typically I'll go sleep in their house for a week or 2, or they'll come to mine. And it's a friendship that lasts forever. So, how do you do this? So, the first thing to know is there's a quote by Machiavelli I really like, which is develop the strength to do bold things, not to endure suffering. When I moved to the US when I was 13, I was 5'2", 100 pounds. I had a thick Israeli accent. I had dyslexia and ADHD. I could not read English very well. And I had no clue how the social dynamics in the United States worked, very different in the Middle East. In addition, I had absolutely no desire in high school to smoke weed, to drink alcohol, or to play Call of Duty. I wanted to build things. So I didn't find my people in high school. I was really lucky though. I have 4 younger siblings who are all absolutely amazing. And so I had the very rare opportunity most people don't have of opting out, of forcing myself to negotiate around what was the quality of my friends. My little brother started coding when he was in 3rd grade, building Dragon Ball Z websites. He taught himself assembly in 5th grade to hack video games. He built 47 iPhone apps by the time he was 17. He was top of his class at math and physics and literature at Exeter. My sister speaks 7 languages. They both went to Exeter for high school, then to Stanford for undergrad, then for Stanford for their masters. Gavin and Eric's, same thing. I didn't have the grades to get into Stanford or Exeter, so I went to public school in California. What I didn't have when I was in high school is the bedrock of principles and the ability to make people follow me into my principles as opposed to take the principles that people typically follow. But I was not willing to make that compromise. Now, the way I learned English is I listened to Harry Potter audiobooks 22 times in a row. To this day, I have the first chapter memorized. And the way I learned how to read is my dad would read Harry Potter to me in Hebrew, and I would listen to that cassette tape before I went to sleep every single day. And so Harry Potter is obviously my favorite book, but not because of the magic. The central theme is Harry Potter is friendships, and I wanted friendships like that. Specifically, I wanted friendships with people like Hermione, who could level my CV up, right? So everybody knows you already average your 5 best friends, and David loves to talk about the fact that Steve Jobs was his friend, was with Robin Noyce, right? Aristotle was the tutor for Alexander. Like, these people go in squads. There's like, little collections. So like, how do you end up in those collections? When I went to Brown, I found my people. And the reason was that it had a dining hall, and every day there'd be 8 people who sit at a table. So I would only sit with people I didn't know for the first like 2 months. I'd grab a plate, be like, hey, what's your name? I'm Cliff, nice to meet you. Can I grab a seat here? Sure. And then I'd join the table. And then I'd grab another plate, I'd do this at another table. I'd grab a cup of tea, I'd do this at another table. And I made friends with 60% of my grade in the first 2 weeks. And then I did it the next quarter, and the next quarter, and the next quarter. So I did this with like all the grades below me and all the grades above me. And then I ended up doing hackathons, which is like you get together for like 3-4 days with other people who code, and you just build something. So I did 42 of them, right? Every single top university in the United States, I got to do this. And I made like amazing friendships. But then I graduated, and I so did not want to leave college that I convinced 2 of my professors to sponsor me to stay as a visiting scholar at Brown. I had an ID, I had an email, I could go to the gym, I could bag my own classes, I lived with a couple of athletes basically on campus, it was amazing. But unintentionally, I ended up hiring some engineers in San Francisco. And eventually I moved out to SF. And I was lonely. I wasn't working at Google, I wasn't working at Palantir, there was no dining hall, and the only people who I was interacting with were people who I hired. So like 6 people. I didn't get that cross-pollination of information that I had before, and the surface area of serendipity to make new friends. So, developed the strength to do bold things, not to endure suffering. I started sending 5 cold DMs every single day to someone new that I wanted to be friends with. And people will respond. And here are the principles of how to get that to work.
Can you give some names?
Names of people?
Yeah.
Sure. So like the early investors in Speechify, people who like taught me very early are like Mike Krieger, who's the founder of Instagram, Evan, who is the founder of Twitter, Vlad, who's the founder of Robinhood, Nate, who's the founder of Revolut, founders of Notion, of Audible, of Grammarly, of Zillow, of Medium, of 23andMe, of Lululemon, Richard Branson from Virgin, CMO of Netflix, founders of Honey, founders of Brex, founders of Plaid, Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, Lee Abdal, like Connor Price, who's like the biggest rapper on TikTok right now. It doesn't matter. Brandon Sanderson, who writes my favorite books. David Senra. And many more people. It doesn't matter what the industry is. So the first thing is be on a mission. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. One person I get to be friends with, but I will soon at some point figure it out. And so Arnold had the golden boy syndrome. Everybody wanted to help him because he wanted to go to America. And he wanted to be the greatest bodybuilder that's ever been. So people would sneak him food. People wanted to help him along the way in his mission. And so in 2020, Speechify started to hit product market fit. We were doing well. I wanted to figure out how to make ads work. So I made a list of the top 100 best performing consumer subscription companies in the world. And I emailed every single head of growth, CMO, founder, and then I LinkedIn messaged them. And then I Instagram messaged them. And then I Facebook messaged them. And if they didn't respond, I would do it again, very politely, very gently. If anyone ever asked me to stop, I would stop. No one ever asked me to stop. And we get on a Zoom call. And on the Zoom call, we talk and we make friends. And the nice thing is because I've read 2,000 books, doesn't matter what they're interested in, I've read something about it. And so we'd have a good conversation. And then they'd invite me to come visit. Or I'd be like, oh, you're in Denmark? I'm going to be in Denmark on Sunday. Let's hang out. Great. And they'd say, okay. And then I'd book a flight to Denmark to go hang out with them. And what I would do is I would go to each one of these companies and I would sit in their office and I would watch how they bought ads. And I got really good at buying ads on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The next year, I moved to LA and I did the same thing for creators. And so I became really good friends with the guys who started Yes Theory, which is like a really big YouTube channel. And then Mr. Beast, who pulls like 300 million views per video. And Ali Abdal, who is also like a very big creator in the productivity space. And basically like the top 50 creators. I would literally go to their house and I would sleep over there for like 2-3 weeks and I would see how they made content. But like we built really great friendships as a result of this. Some of them I ended up meeting in person, some of them as a result of a cold message, but the key is to send a cold message. And when you send it, you want to say something like, hey, I really admire you for this. So I'll give you an example. Connor Price is a musician. I'm obsessed with his music. He pulls like 8.5 million listens per month on Spotify. And his videos will hit like, I don't know, 40 million views on TikTok. And the message I sent him was, hey, you published this song 5 years ago, and the lyrical dexterity is incredible. It reminds me of a combination of Lin-Manuel Miranda, and and Logic. I would love to be able to rap like you do. And then, I linked something that I was doing in Speechify, and then I said, hey, I'm working on the song. I would love your opinion on like this and that. And he responded. We ended up becoming friends. We did a couple Zoom calls. He invited me to his place, and I recorded a series of songs in his house in his studio. And then he like helped me improve my flow as a rapper, and like it was amazing. Most people would never think of doing this, especially if they're not in music, to take their side hobby and message a person who's like really, really good at this. I love doing parkour and gymnastics. Every single person in the world who is like a top practitioner in tricking and parkour, I have DM'd on Instagram. And typically, I'll be like, hey, I'm working on this move. You are the best person in the world at doing Websters. How much would you think is fair for me to pay per hour to coach me a little bit on how to do Websters? If it's in person, we'll meet in person. If it's not in person, we'll do like a FaceTime call, and I'll have my AirPods in while I train, and like my phone here, and like I'll do the flip, and it'll tell me how to do it. Typically, people don't charge you more than like 50 or 100 bucks. And so after like 5 sessions with Adam, who's this coach, is amazing. By the way, he's not even a coach; he's an athlete. I get him to coach me because that's a unique situation. We become genuine friends. We're messaging all the time. I'll send him clips, he'll send me clips, he'll invite me to hang out. And this is a thing people typically don't realize. If there is like an amazing practitioner, offer to hire them as a coach first and just pay them. And then like it won't take more than 4 sessions for them to just like be genuine friends with you. And 80% of the time, they won't even agree to take your money. So, with Connor, I message him and I say, hey, how much would be fair for me to pay you per hour to coach me on flow? And he's like, bro, I saw what you're doing with Speechify, don't even worry about it. Like, we'd love to help you. Same thing for all these people who taught me how to do ads, who taught me how to do creatives, who taught me how to hire CTOs, who taught me how to build technical teams. CTO of GitHub spent like a ton of time with me back in the day. And it was just because I sent a message where I genuinely shared appreciation for what's great about them. Shared like one line about what's good about me, and then asked them very specific questions and asked to have a call in order to get to know them. And if they didn't respond immediately, I could do it again. I did the same thing with Jack Dorsey, who's the founder of, co-founder of Twitter and the founder of Square. Worked amazingly well. So have something to learn, be on a mission. The next one is you can be a little cheeky. So a really good example is I was on a mission to solve dyslexia, right? I'm super dyslexic. And Charles Schwab became a friend of mine, and so did Richard Branson. And it's because whenever I think, an investor or anybody else, like, who do you want to meet? I always have in my head a list of the 5 people who I don't yet know who I want to be friends with. So right now, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I can give like a couple more people, but you won't know who they are. Like often these are like super random people that like, don't matter to you, but do matter to me, right? Parkour athletes, whatever it might be. At the time, I wanted to meet Richard Branson because I thought he was cool. And he also had dyslexia. And I think he was on my list for like 4 years, and 3 different people tried to introduce me to him, and like it didn't pan out, but like the 4th person, it panned out. And we ended up on a Zoom call, and we hit it off on a Zoom call. And he invited me to come to his island, and we became like really good friends, and after I spent like a couple of days on his island with him, like I brought my girlfriend, we flew together in his plane back to Miami, like we WhatsApp all the time now, it's like very nice. But with him, we were gonna like arrange an investment, and I was a little cheeky, I was like, I'll take the investment, but only if I get to hang out on your island for a little bit. He was like, sounds good. And I think I challenged him to like a chess game or something like that. So like, if you can be kind of like funny, cheeky, you can get around a lot of like social ink. The next one is how to go really, really deep. So at Speechify, we have 4 core principles. Extreme product quality, we talk to users all the time. Leading with love, we take really good care of each other. Frugality, we don't waste money. And speed, we shift to production really fast. And the team is from all over the world. So we have 150 people distributed across 26 countries. There's 35 people on the AI engineering team. There's 80 engineers on front-end, back-end, platform, and then like 20 people on growth and other projects. Simon, who's our COO, we met off a cold Facebook message when he was 20 years old, right? I had posted on my Facebook page, hey, I'm working on this thing. Anybody have time to help me with a web app because I'm working on that iOS side? And I intended for my friends to Brown to comment, but nobody did. So then I made a list of the top 10 Facebook pages and reposted it all on them. And so some random kid from Bulgaria saw my message on Hackathon Hackers Europe and messaged me. He's like, hey, my name is Simon, I blah, blah, blah. And so I sent him this PDF for like media hack I wanted to do. I woke up, in the morning it was done. I was like, wow. He's like, how else can I help? And I was like, well, I want to build this for my website. And I sent it to him, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, it was done. Like, this guy was just like amazing. Mind you, thousands of people have touched the product at Speechify. And so it's also a matter of volume. Not every single person who gives great energy will give it back to you, but sometimes they will, and so volume matters. And I learned this because when I was in college, I ended up hiring 10 virtual assistants in the Philippines to find and apply scholarships for me full time, and that's how I got to pay for school. But I had to hire 100 people to find the 10 that were absolutely amazing, and I learned that it was about a volume game. Anyway, so Simon started as an iOS intern, then became an iOS engineer, then head of iOS, then head of engineering, then head of recruiting, then he became COO. He was like 27, and I kept trying to figure out how to get him to the United States, and there wasn't a way because he didn't graduate college, he was from Bulgaria, and I said, you know what, screw it. And I just read all the law myself on immigration. And I figured out a way to do it doing it. And I filed, like, I interviewed like 10 lawyers, 9 said you can't do it, 1 agreed to do the thing that I wanted to do, and we got him a green card. And in 3 months, he gets his US citizenship. So this is like the biggest accomplishment of my life up until that point, was like getting Simon his like US citizenship. I went myself, found an apartment, booked him a flight, moved to the United States. And I do this all the time. Like, I book people Airbnbs constantly. I pay for people's flights constantly. I'll give you an even better example. I got a little bit worried about COVID, maybe like a week before the rest of the world woke up to it. So I flew Simon, who at the time was with his girlfriend, from Bulgaria to LA, where I had a 1-bedroom apartment. I flew Chaitu from India to LA. I flew Valentine from Cancun to LA, and Taylor Offer was already there with me. So we slept 4 people in a 1-bedroom apartment for 4 months. It was the best 4 months of my life. Valentine and I shared a bed in the room. I ordered a curtain to divide the living room. Simon and Chaitu shared a bed in the living room, and then Taylor slept on an air mattress. And we would work out like crazy, and we would work like crazy, and we had just like the biggest growth ever of Speechify in that time frame. But we had already done like a couple of times where I'd book a house and move a bunch of leadership team in. And then the company did really well, so we got a bigger house and brought more people in. So Jan was this guy who basically did to me what I did to everybody else. He was 17 years old in Uruguay, which is like basically like close to Antarctica essentially. He kept sending me these great emails, and eventually I just booked him a flight, moved him out to LA, and had him start working at Speechify. And so I'll share a couple more stories in a minute, but you might ask, Cliff, how do you have time to do all these things? And the answer is serendipity. I'm just like spontaneous. And if there is an opportunity to have silliness, I just lean into it, like by default. And I'll figure it out as it goes. And so there's another concept, which is say I love you first. So I had a friend that I did parkour with, and we like finished the session, and I was like, all right, see you, Matt. He's like, bye, love you, man. Boom, dipped. I was like, love you. You're not my girlfriend. You're not my family. Why are you saying love you to me? And I thought about it, and I was like, no, that felt good. Like, I like love you. And he said it maybe like a little bit too early in our relationship. But I was like, yeah, I'm down. So the next time I said, love you, man. So the team at Speechify, everybody says love you to each other, not as like a culture thing, like just genuinely, right? So like, I'll talk to Simon, I'm like, hey my dear, how's it going? And like, we'll chat about whatever we're doing. It's like, all right, bye, I love you. And someone's like, was that my girlfriend? No, it was my COO. And the heart emoji is the most used emoji in our Slack. And so if you say I love you first, look, some people's families, they don't hug, they don't kiss, they don't cuddle, they don't hear I love you inside of their own home. And if you say I love you to them, it's a little bit weird, but like that might be the most significant relationship of their life. Because think about it, I love you is special because it shows vulnerability. And so that's the next topic, is if you want deep relationships, people bond over shared vulnerability and shared ambition. If you think about like women who are middle-aged and they have like a best friend, think bridesmaids, right? It's those relationships where that guy dumped you in college and you drink white wine in your dorm room, and like you're going through these shared vulnerability, these harrowing moments, right? Same thing for like guys who are in the Marines together. That bond never goes away. And so if you keep it vulnerable, if you can be a kid like me and talk about the fact that I was bullied in elementary school and that I could not read no matter how hard I tried when I was 18, and my mom had to read my summer reading book for me for Brown, and I reveal these things to you relatively early, I have set the precedent that it's okay for you to do the same things with me. And these might be conversations that you don't have with anybody, but now you have them with me. And this is part of the reason why I succeed in getting really deep with people really quickly. There's a game I love to play with people, which is called the biography game. What you do is you turn on a timer for 5 minutes on your phone, you put the phone face down, and tell them your life story. And especially if you're dating, by the way, this is an amazing trick for dates as well, but just like to meet anybody else. And so I'll go first too. And I'll be like, my name is Cliff, I grew up in Israel, I was in the United States when I was 13, I have 4 younger siblings who are brilliant, and I was the stupid one. My dad eventually started reading books, and fell in love with listening. And then I love fantasy audiobooks, and I listen to everything, theology, philosophy, science, business books, self-improvement, sci-fi, it doesn't matter. I studied renewable energy engineering at Brown. When I was 21, I read this paper about narrow applications of deep learning as it relates to speech synthesis, and I thought this is so cool. And then I read the same thing about OCR, transcription, translation, natural language processing. I put it into this app. This was like the 37th product that I built, but I had to build it because I wasn't doing well in school because I had dyslexia, and then I started Speechify, and I went to parkour, and I went to audiobooks, whatever. But I'll go. And I know how to tell my story, so I can do it in like 5 minutes. The other person's like, damn, I gotta now share as much information and go as deep as this guy did about being bullied in elementary school. So I tried. But if you didn't go first, they wouldn't try themselves. And the nice part was the phone has a timer. You don't say anything when they're speaking. So they're gonna fill the void. And what you'll find is typically people will speak for 15, 20 minutes, not 5, because the phone is face down and they're not spending constant time. But now you have a deep relationship. And if you read How to Win Friends by Dale Carnegie, you'll know that people will love you if you listen. And so you build yourself the opportunity, you help a space for them to listen to you. Other really cool tricks around money. So I'm Jewish, and I don't like wasting money. When I first moved to the United States, I could not bear to pay $25 for lunch. I thought this was ridiculous. And I did not bear to pay for an Uber to go to an event. But eventually, I decided that I will not look at the price of booking Ubers, and I would not look at the price of buying healthy food. And over time, I developed this for a couple of other things that are very, very helpful. The first one is I treat the airport system like the subway system. I book all my flights the day of, sometimes on the way to the airport. Some of the biggest deals I've ever made happened as a result of this. Some of the best friendships I made happened as a result of this. And I never book a flight back. And like very often I end up like going to a place I did not expect to go to. I don't look at the price when I book Airbnbs for other people. I like to pay for people to break their lease. So they
Can you put your microphone close? Yeah.
I like to pay for people to break their lease to join me where I am. And if I'm doing it with my friends, not with teammates, I'll put the credit card down on the Airbnb and then I'll Venmo request people, and like usually people pay you back. If they don't, just know that for next time, whatever, don't invite them. But like, life is all about running these types of experiments, right? Whether it be inside your business or inside of these relationships. So be the person who just takes the step first. And if they don't pay you the $500 for their Airbnb like this room, you guys definitely don't care. So the other trick is host events and host adventures. So I had a teammate at Speechify, Matthew, who was amazing. Loved working with this guy. And he took a year off school to work with me at Palo Alto at the time, and he was going to leave, and I really did not want him to leave. So I sat down with him and I was like, listen, here's a notepad. I want you to write your top 10 goals in life. By the way, 2 of the greatest questions to ask after you play the biography game, or even if you sit down and rant table with people, and I did this all the time around. It's like, can I ask you a personal question? Sure. What's your top 3 struggles in life right now? What's your top 3 goals in life? And there's a magic to asking, can I ask you a personal question? Because I can come to a table with a person I do not know, sit down next to him, say, Carl, can I ask you a personal question? Sure. How did you lose your hand? Okay. Most people around who saw my friend Carl probably wondered this. But because I asked him, can I ask you a personal question? And she said, yes. He knows something weird and personal is going to come out of my mouth next. And if he's not in the mood, he will tell me no. It's like super amazing trick. And so if you ask someone, hey, can I ask you a personal question? Sure. What's your biggest struggle right now? People will actually tell you the answer. And even better if you tell them your struggles first. But you can also ask, what's your top 3 goals in life? And also that will result in an amazing conversation. And you can help them figure it out if you don't know what it is. So with Matt, I was like, I want you to write down your top 10 goals in life. And what I realized very quickly is all his goals oriented around friendships. And he wanted to leave Speechify because he wanted to go back to Baltimore because that's where his friends were. And I was like, okay, let's solve this, give me a week. I would like for you to go, don't work on anything Speechify related, make a Google Sheet with 50 people in the Bay Area that you think are cool that you want to be friends with. So the next day he gave me back a list. It was full of Teal Fellows, people who won this award for being the best student at Berkeley, Knight Hennessy scholars at Stanford, YC founders, people with cool Twitter accounts, people with cool blogs. I found all these people. At the time, everybody was on Facebook. Today I would do this on Instagram. I threw them into a shared chat, and I was like, hi, my name is Cliff. I know some of you. I knew like one of them. I host dinners in my patio every Friday. Would love to invite you. Here's an invite to the event. And 20 people showed up. It's great. Actually, one of my best friends to this day, Tanae, we met at this first event. And then the people who didn't come the first time, I invited the second time. And the second time, we had 45 people show up. Because people who came the first time loved it, and then new people came as well. Not that hard to do. Be a little bit cheeky, but it's allowed. The next thing is to host adventures. So I'll very frequently, I'll just book an Airbnb in Joshua Tree. I'll invite a couple of my friends and people who I want to be friends with that I'm not friends with yet, and they'll come and it'll be great. Or I'll go circumnavigate Big Island with a friend. Or after this, I'm going to the Hamptons to do a scavenger hunt with some friends. Right? Random things that are silly, but it makes life amazing. I'm getting the sign to wrap up, so I'm gonna blitz through the rest. Next one is turn enemies into friends. One of the people who I spent the most time with and now lives with me is the guy who hacked Speechify and like completely embarrassed us. And I found him, made him fix the hack, and I was like, by the way, huge respect, that was like quite impressive. And then I hired him to be my personal engineer. So now, like all the projects that I have, I get directly to him, and he's like fantastic. Have principles. So when I was 21 and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, I wrote a 30-page paper about my worldviews, and the conclusion was I wanted to be the person that I needed most when I was young. And I distilled it down to like 24 principles that I believe that most other people don't, and I put that on Medium. Like half the people we hired at Speechify just like read that article and DM'd me. So if you put your values online in a like discreet way, people will resonate with that. When I turned 30, I was also really nervous, so I wrote a 100-page paper about my worldviews and did a bunch of other exercises to help me out. Very quick because we don't have time. Flying places, never miss a chance to pick up a phone number. Ask for introductions. Use voice notes when communicating with people over Instagram or WhatsApp, especially if it's a cold message on Instagram. People don't look at the text, but if you send them a voice note, it's like a little gift that they get to open. So like they're gonna click it, and once they're clicking it, like, oh, you don't sound like a crazy person, like they're gonna listen through and realize like voice builds a lot of trust. So if you can do voice notes, always better. If you can have a game where you're keeping friends accountable and they keep you accountable. When I initially started Speechify, I had a goal. I needed to code 5 hours every single day on Xcode, and I would measure this, and I would send a screenshot of my screen time to 5 of my best friends who I really admired to show them that I did it. And if I missed it, I had to do 200 push-ups and 100 pull-ups by 10 a.m. the next morning. And if I missed that, I had to run 10 miles that weekend. And I just like always did it. And obviously I built a lot of trust with those friends, and then they started to do the same thing with me. And even though we lived all over the world, we got to stay connected over stuff like this. You don't need alcohol. You don't need weed. You don't need drugs ever to make friendships. You just don't. And then if you can build recurring activities with people, that is the best. So if I meet someone like, hey, would love to hang out, I typically just invite them to a workout because I'm going to work out every single day. Everybody wants to work out. You can work out with men, you can work out with women, you can work out with someone who's 50, you can work out with someone who's 15, it doesn't matter. Like, I default to doing a workout with someone over coffee, and then, okay, if we need to, I'll get coffee with them. If you can meet them not in their office, way better. In their office, you're just like one of the people on the assembly line. So always try to meet, like find the coffee shop next to their office, meet there. But then you can make it more fun. You can invite them to go dancing. You can invite them to do gymnastics, which is what I always do. You can invite them to go play soccer. It doesn't matter what you guys do. And the last thing I'll wrap with is, of the 24 principles that I built inside of that original 30-page paper, what I concluded is that I have 3 main goals in life. Number 1 is to be the best person that I can be and have kids who are greater than me. Number 2 is to maximize the love in my life, whether it be my partner, friends, significant other, teams, etc. I also view creating value for the world, what I do through Speechify, as a form of loving on my users. And then number 3 is to create as much value in the world and elevate the collective quality of life. And my conclusion as a result of all this thinking and all this reading is that, at least for me, love is the most important thing in life. And the more you give of it, the more you have to give. It's like fire. You can light an additional candle without extinguishing the original flame. It breaks Newton's law. Or like a jug, the more you pour of it, the bigger the jug gets. So if love is something that is important to you, and typically people prioritize their family first, I'm too young to have kids. I get to have a great relationship with my nuclear family. But I treat friends that come into my life like they are my family. And you know what? They end up treating me the same way back.